October 2011 veterinary premise evaluation, which is already in evidence and not disputed. And then the first first letter on this is January 31st, 2012.
Right. Well, what do you say?
I'm objecting on the relevance and trying to determine how this is new information, which has already been part of the exhibit.
Well, let me help the witness along. You were, well, excuse me. After you entered your agreement with Alabama Spay and Neuter Clinic, you went for about a year and a half before you got a premise permit, didn't you?
Wait,
I'm not saying that.
No, objection. No, stop. This is way off base.
Yep.
This is way off base. The email that he put in front of me on Wednesday afternoon, claiming it was my letter, is actually an email from Tammy that confirms that there was a premises permit for the entire year of 2011. He's got his documents wrong, Dr. Wright. If you want to let him continue,
I'd also say that we've covered this. There's been 3 different witnesses who talked about the premise permit, and there was no gap. We have 2 exhibits that are off, Agency 3 and Agency 6, that show emails in July from Dr. Weber to Tammy. I am the new practice owner. Tammy's reply email from August 2010. To the extent that he's trying to confuse the board, y'all, this is the exact same thing we've been over. And I would object to further line of questioning. This is all they're trying to do is intimidate this witness, Dr. Wright. Could I get a ruling, please, Dr. Wright? This is not new information.
I want to respond.
Please respond.
Intimidating a witness is a baloney objection. If they contend this exhibit is already in evidence, I ask for them to point it. I don't want to double mark things.
Okay, I'll be glad.
Yeah, what's the exhibit number? I'll use that exhibit. I've got this one marked as 41. So what's the exhibit number?
We'll go see in a second. Dr. Wright, this is ask and answer, and this is not in any judgment. Okay.
Well, here's our position. I'll just state why it's relevant. It appears that what occurred is when Dr. Latham left and Dr. Hayes came for an inspection, and later, and it's in an exhibit, the board sent a cease and desist in June of 2011, that during that entire time, Dr. Weber didn't get a premise permit from this board. The exhibit I marked as 41 that he says is already in evidence is the new veterinary premise evaluation for a new premise at Alabama Spay and Neuter, October 26, 2011. And we have provided them all the records the board has on file, and we can't find any record at this time. And we're going to search during the recess, I guess, from this afternoon until the next time we present, of any record of Dr. Weber obtaining a premise permit during 2010 after Latham left, and in 2011 up until some point after October of 2011. That's why we're offering this.
May I respond?
And they should be able to answer those questions. He's the person that's on trial and accused with fraudulent representations.
May I respond quickly? Thank you for his closing argument, but we've had a witness who actually testified what it is, and I hope the board will recall their testimony. This has already been admitted, Mr. Montiel, which is defendant respondent 17, which is the 2011 evaluation by Mr. Phillips. We just went over the 2010 premise permit evaluation inspection that we've already talked about for at least an hour. So to the extent he's trying to say there was nothing that went on and we didn't have one, I think that's pretty clear from the testimony today elicited, and I hope everybody understands that. Further, an attorney's argument or summation of what he thinks the testimony will be is not testimony in himself. Dr. Wright, I stand firm on this. This is not any new, uncharted ground. He's covered the same thing that's been covered.
Well, I will admit that I had trouble recalling all of these dates and whether or not during a period of time there was a premises permit on the wall. Now the rest of the board may be totally clear on all of that. I have to say I'm not, and I would like Mr. Montel to quickly make his point.
All right, and so
clarify that subject so that it will be clear to me and the rest of the board.
well, and I'm trying to work off of the testimony of the veterinarians. So I'm asking you, Dr. Weber, you understand you alone have had the responsibility to obtain premise permits for the Alabama Spay and Neuter Clinic for 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, don't you?
Yes.
And I need you to take the time to think about it, and I want you to tell this board whether or not you got a premise permit for the remainder of 2010 after Dr. Latham left. Tell the board, not me.
You'll have to see the documents that our lawyers are holding. I have not been carrying those documents around with all the dates on them. Chris has been trying to explain to you there have been no gaps. He has all that in his hands. Now if Montiel wants to figure out what those dates are, he and Chad and Chris can get together and look at those documents and see what they are, also with the letter from Tammy. But I don't have all that in my head, this date and that date and so forth.
Well, you were required to keep one hanging on the wall in 2010 if you had a premise permit. Did you do that?
I think there's always been, every time we had a premise permit, it goes on the wall.
The premise permit that was hanging on the wall in 2010 was the Dr. Latham premise permit, wasn't it?
You'll have to go look and see.
Well, let's go to 2011. In January of 2011, did you have a premise permit issued to you at the Alabama Spay and Neuter Clinic at 2721 Crestwood Boulevard in Irondale, Alabama?
If I was the owner of the practice at that time, which I was, the answer to that is yes.
It's your testimony to this board today that you had taken the steps and had obtained a premise permit in January of 2011.
We have documentation of that.
You have documentation that shows that?
Yes.
Well, will you please get it?
He
Mark,
has
you
it.
showed it to me yesterday.
Mark, wins evidence.
Which exhibit?
Agency 3, Agency 6. Look at premise permit from 2010, premise permit from 2011.
Mark,
Dr. Wright, this is the same testimony.
Agency
This has been asked and answered. It's not any new testimony.
Okay.
That's right. I like the rule that he be stopped.
Did he ever admit that what you guys were talking about, that it had already been?
Yeah, I think he did. Mark, will you admit that? I showed it to you.
Excuse me just a second. The
Had it
agency,
been already admitted?
Yeah.
Exhibit 17 is a premise inspection, October 26, 2011. I want to introduce 41 because it does have a cover sheet from Mr. Phillips with that attached, so they are slightly different. But the board will see that that premise evaluation is in evidence now. They introduced it as 17. I'm going to mark as 41, the document from the board's file. It's color, and there's some other things that are not attached to there too. But he just referred to exhibit.
That's right. We don't object to the document coming in.
Okay.
The only thing we're objecting to is that we have tread the same water. And he told you he had something new. And I'm giving him some leeway. I promise y'all. I don't
I
want
want to
to
encourage Mr. Montel to make his point.
And Dr. Wright, I'm trying to, because this veterinarian should be able to tell y'all whether or not he had a premise permit in 2010. We don't have a record of it. He should be able to tell you whether he had one in 2011 when he began the year. We don't have a record of it. It appears, and this is what I'm asking the witness, that in October of 2011, after the inspection by Mr. David Phillips, is when he first obtained the premise permit. About, what, a year and a half later from when he took over.
Continue, please.
Well, we offer exhibit 4. You can identify 41, or we'll offer, they said they have no objection. 41 we offer.
No objection.
And their 17 is already admitted. And they referenced an agency exhibit 3 that's in evidence, so it's permissible for me to show you. That's a letter from Dr. Weber on July 15, 2010. It's not a premise permit application. What was the other one you wanted to say that
Why
shows
don't you read that into evidence, Mr. Montiel? I think the board may.
Dear Mrs. Chandler, I've contracted with Alabama Spay and Neuter as the practice owner in the facility located at 2721 Crestwood Boulevard, Irondale, Alabama. This supersedes their previous contract with Veterinary Doctors Incorporated as practice owner. I'm enclosing a copy of my contract for your records. Please feel free to contact me at 205-956-4555 with any questions. Thank you.
What was the date of that?
July 15, 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
Okay. And exhibit.
Do you say that's a premise permit application?
I'm not saying anything.
All right, and what other exhibit?
Just making sure that.
Any other documents you want to point to that's in the record? Y'all are rattling off exhibit numbers. Is there other exhibit number?
It's your New number 6.
It is
number 6.
It's your new. Dr. Weber, look at exhibit 41. Board exhibit 41. Because you didn't sign the Dr. Hayes premise inspection, did you? No, don't stop looking at 41 for a second.
You told me to look at it.
Well, I'll ask you to stop. I don't
Excuse Dr. If he's going to ask questions about a document, will he give the witness the opportunity to look at it?
Well, I'm not asking about that document. Dr. Weber.
No, excuse me.
There's no rule. You want me to look at it.
Can we get some order, Dr. Wright?
I'll sustain your
Thank you.
To what? Tell me what? I don't understand.
Giving him a chance to look
Okay,
at
let me just ask another question. Dr. Weber, when Dr. Hayes did the premise inspection in October of 2010, were you there and did you participate in any manner?
No.
And you didn't sign that premise inspection, did you?
No.
I want you to look at Exhibit 41 in your hand, Agency Exhibit 41, and tell me.
You just told me not to look at it.
I'm telling you now to look at it. I'm asking you.
I'm looking at it.
All right, look at it carefully.
I did already.
Is that the first premise inspection that occurred under your management of the practice at the Alabama Spay Neuter Clinic?
I'm not sure.
You understand it's your responsibility to get a premise permit, don't you?
Sure.
Well, let's go over Exhibit 41, and it's been introduced into evidence. See if this will refresh your recollection. This occurred on October 26, 2011 at 9:14 a.m. to 11:52 a.m. Do you see that?
I see that.
Did you meet with David Phillips?
No, I didn't meet with David Phillips.
What was the purpose of the inspection?
Objection. That calls for speculation. It calls him to speculate what was in the mind of Mr. Phillips.
Okay, sustain.
Were you trying to get a premise permit?
That's what this form is about.
And see that it marks that it's for a new premise permit application. There's a box at the top that's marked, blocked out new. You see that?
Yes, I see that, and I also see that Dr. Farrell was the person that was there when that was going on.
Well, you're the person who signed this, didn't you?
Yes, I signed it.
And what date did you end up finally signing this inspection?
Ten 10/26/2011, and what I've told you and the board 50 times or more, I have a legal contract with Dr. Farrell to do these kind of things. She does the surgery, she takes care of the animals, she does a magnificent job, she's a qualified veterinarian, she's a graduate, she has everything she needs, and she is employed by me to do these things. And it's been that way. And there's nothing wrong with the way she does it. You're taking minute details and minute dates and trying to make mountains out of molehills. And you know what the purpose is? To try to squash the Spay Neuter Foundation, because for some reason you have it in your mind that the Spay Neuter clinics, the low cost, are stealing money from veterinarians, which is absolute hogwash. These Spay Neuter clinics are doing great good for homeless, stray animals that are dying in trailer parks, running all around restaurants and getting killed underneath the dumpsters. Veterinarians have had years to address this situation, and never has. And the veterinarians in this state associated with us right here who make money by killing animals every week or month or whatever they do. Comes along people that have made their money legally and honestly, and they are doing their best to stop animal suffering, which is what we should be doing. And what do they get? They get slapped for it. You got somebody like him and some other people that are just trying to take a magnifying glass and put it on every little word in the Practice Act and calling it an infraction, and making me out as a liar, a fraud, dishonest, and a whole bunch of other nice things. I work in my clinic. I do a lot of work for the Spay Neuter board, not the board, the Spay Neuter clinic. If an animal comes to them that has a tumor on it or a wound or something like that, Dr. Farrell will not spay it because she does not want to interfere with regular veterinary medicine. She will tell the owner that she gives them an option. She says, you can take it to my clinic and I'll spay it and fix it, which if I do, I charge the same price as the low-cost spay-neuter people do. Or she can, you're not going to shut me up, so you may as well not try.
My objection is the
witness is on the narrative that is
non-responsive to the question.
That's right. If he wraps it up, we let him finish.
You can object till your glasses fall off, but you're not shutting me up. She'll send clients to me, and they have their choice. Go to Joe Blow Veterinarian, and he'll take the little tumor off or whatever, or take it to me and I'll fix it and charge them the same thing. They got that choice. The great majority of these people are people that will never, ever go into a veterinary clinic and pay $500 or similar to spay a cat that they can feed and catch in a trap and take it somewhere. They're not going to do that. Veterinarians are not losing money from spay and neuter clinics. And if veterinarians would cooperate with them, they would make money from them. You be nice to some of these people and they'll come back to you. And why the people cannot see that is beyond me. Now, how could a veterinarian go to school and learn surgery and come out of it with no compassion? There are veterinarians in this state that have a hole in their brain where compassion ought to be, and they're trying to fill it up with money.
Okay, I appreciate your notion. I imagine all professions have less than ideal, but anyhow, I appreciate you and allowed you to make your comments. And so can we please get back to the question at hand?
So you think that excuses you from following the law regarding
Objection, argumentative.
I do not.
Objection, argumentative. Mr. Montiel, under the guise of this is going to take a couple of minutes and I got a brand new area, is back up here grilling the respondent, who sat through 3 days of intimidation by Mr. Montiel. Dr. Wright, with all due respect, would you please stop this now?